Today's word is duly. The word of the day is to help fellow members to enrich your vocabulary, one meaning at a time, so you can have a vast array of words to use to prepare your speech. For this meeting, the word of the day is duly. I told you that. Which definition is in a due manner, properly, fittingly, or in the proper or expected way. And an example of a sentence is, they were duly impressed by his speech. So I think we should be able to use that word today. So we're looking for a high word count. In addition to that, I'll be listening for ums and ahs, so's, and fillers, like, you know, instead of pauses. And I will count those up and tally them if we have time at the end of the meeting. And that's not to pick on anyone. That's to help you improve your craft and your presentation giving ability. Madam Toastmaster.
Tanya. Next, I'll introduce our timer, Amit, and we'll hear about his role.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. My job as a timer is to duly inform our speakers, our table topic people, and our evaluators that their time is up. So it's a very important thing to keep the time. The speakers have given me their time, so when they have 2 minutes left, I would wave the green flag to them, saying they've got 2 more minutes to wrap up. When they've got 1 minute left, I would show them the yellow card, and when they're done with their time, I will show them the red card. After that, what I do is between them and me. So for the table topics, you get 1 to 2 minutes. At 1.5, at 1 minute, I will show you the green card. 1.5 minutes, I will show you the yellow card. And for most people, they're breathing a sigh of relief when I show them a red card. And our guests will find out why they breathe a sigh of relief when they fall off things. Evaluators get 3 minutes. So at the end of 2 minutes, I show them the green card. At the end of 2.5 minutes, yellow card. At the end of 3 minutes, red card. And some of them really want to tell you what they feel, and then we take them outside to discuss that.
Thank you for duly informing us of your timing responsibility. A very important responsibility with less than 1 hour that we have. Next, we'll move into our actual speakers to hear what their speeches are. And our first speaker will be Diganta. And his speech looks very interesting based on the title. The speech title is Time Travel. He's requesting 7 to 9 minutes. And he's speaking from the Competent Communicator Manual, which is the first manual that new members to Toastmasters work. And this is speech number 3. Please welcome Diganta.
Last year I took a break. I joined a NASA space program. I hopped on a spacecraft, left for a long journey, came back, and I met my grandchildren who are older than I. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and dear guests. The topic of my speech is time travel. I actually didn't go to any space program, as you might have guessed. What is time? Define time. Does anybody know how do you define time? I looked up a dictionary and it says period between events. That's time. In modern world, time, the definition of time is 9 billion cycles of cesium atom. That's 1 second. And the accuracy of that clock made by US government is, it loses 1 second in 300 million years. So it's that accurate. Now think about this. You're walking on an escalator, and the escalator is moving at a speed of 5 miles per hour. And you are walking at a speed of 5 miles an hour. And someone who is standing, what would be the speed of your speed seem to that person? You guessed it right. 10 miles per hour. Because the escalator is moving at 5 and you are moving at 5, they add up, and to the person who is stationary, it seems that you are moving at 10. Now imagine you throw a baseball while moving on the escalator, and the baseball is 90 miles per hour. what would be the speed of baseball seen to the person who is stationary? You guessed it right. It's 100 miles per hour. You add up all the speeds, and the final speed is what would seem to the person who is standing. Things change a little bit after this. Now imagine you're walking on the escalator and you turn on your flashlight and the light is thrown on a wall. What would be the speed of light seen to that person who's stationary? Common sense says yes, you add up all the speeds and then you come to the final speed, but not in this case. The speed of light is constant, which is 186,000 miles per second. In other words, it can travel 7 times around Earth in a second. Why the rules are broken in case of light? Why? So there were a lot of theories about it, but Einstein said it's because light is constant and time and space actually is not fixed. It changes depending on one's position or one's motion. I know it's a very complicated subject. I'll try to make it as easy as possible. So the speed of light cannot go beyond what it is, which is 186,000 miles per second. So something has to give up. You have time, you have space, and you have speed. Speed depends on distance and time. But when the speed can't change, it's fixed, then either distance will change or the time change. In this case, time will change. In other words, if I'm moving at a speed of light and I have the clock with me, and Sarah has another clock and she's on Earth, but somehow she could see my clock. Her clock would be slower than my clock. My clock would move a lot faster, from her perspective. Let's put it this way. If Tom and John are 2 twins who are 10 years old, and their parents said, okay, this is summer break, let's send them to a distant galaxy or star on a spacecraft. Tom said, no, I don't want to go. I want to play on Xbox with my buddies. I'll stay home on Earth. But John said, oh, I'll go. Let's have some fun. And his parents paid extra money to send him very high speed, which is 99.99% of the speed of light. And John leaves. It takes 25 light years to get there and come back, so 50 years. So he goes there, spends his summer vacation, summer camp, and comes back. When he comes back, something strange happened. Tom is now 60 years old. But John is 10 and a half years, only 10 and a half years. So he grew only half year in last 50 years. How did this happen? Did John find a fountain of youth? No, that didn't happen. It's all relativity. Einstein's theory of relativity. Since he was traveling at such a high speed, time almost stopped for him from Tom's perspective, who is on Earth. So his age is 10 plus 50, 60 years versus John's age, which is just half year within the last 50 years. So from John's perspective, he is in future, right? 50 years have passed, now on Earth, things have changed. So is time travel possible? Yes, time travel is theoretically possible. But now the question arises, can we go into the past? The answer is no. You can't go into the past because it violates the law of cause and effect. You can't have effect come before the cause. It's like you made an omelet, but the egg hasn't been hatched yet. The egg hasn't been produced yet. So it violates that law, nature's law. The second problem is when you increase the speed, say I'm 150 pounds, if I start running, my weight would increase when I'm moving. If I increase my speed gradually, my weight would keep increasing. And the moment I hit the speed of light, my weight is infinite. And there is no technology being developed or ever be developed which can push a body which is so huge beyond this universe. So because of these two reasons, we can go into the past, but we can go into the future. So that's the good news. The bad news is, I mean, it's good news and bad news both. The good news is we can go back into the past, change the things, and affect the whole universe. But the good thing is we can go into the future and see modern technology and the way people live in the modern technology.
I think we're all having flashbacks from high school physics or math or velocity and all that, but it was very interesting. Thank you. Can we please have 1 minute for evaluation?
It's time.
Our next speaker will be Andrew. Andrew is one of the newer members of the club, and he'll be giving his icebreaker speech. And this is the first speech you give when you join the Toastmasters group, and everybody always loves to hear icebreakers. The title of his speech is Coming to Minnesota, and he's requesting 4 to 6 minutes. Please welcome Andrew.
When you think of New York, what do you think of? What I found is most Midwesterners think of New York City. Well, I grew up in New York, but I didn't grow up in New York City. I actually grew up about an hour east of New York City. In fact, most of my life, I didn't see any of the attractions, Statue of Liberty, Central Park. Most of the things that you think of when you watch movies or learn about New York. I didn't really actually see those until I actually met my wife and I took her back for a visit. And she was shocked when she learned that I hadn't seen any of those attractions. But after I grew up, I decided I needed to leave my coastal town of New York, and I moved to the other side of New York, near Buffalo, New York, close to the Pennsylvania and Canada. I went to a small college of about 2,000 students called St. Bonaventure University, and I had the opportunity to run under Division I team there. So I was able to travel the region, seeing all the different big cities and on the eastern coast. But my senior year, it was time to graduate and get a job. Well, most of my friends didn't have jobs lined up, and I was getting pretty desperate. Luckily, one evening I met an alumnus who was looking for people to work for IBM out in Minnesota. So, of course, I said I'll apply for the job, and I applied, and I went on the interview. Now, just before I got accepted, I did one important thing. I got out a map to actually see where Minnesota was. I had a pretty good idea of where it was in the region, but I had no idea what states I had to drive through to get there. Then I learned it was an 18-hour drive out to Minnesota. So about 5 days before I had to start my first job, I got in my pickup truck and I drove out to Minnesota. Now when you do an 18-hour drive, there's two things that I'd recommend. First off, have a vehicle that has cruise control. Second off, if you're not feeling well and you have a fever, don't drive 18 hours. That was probably one of the roughest journeys in my life. But I've been here in Minnesota for 8 years now. For 4 of those years, I've been married to my wife, and the past 2 years, I've had a little daughter that's kept me from a lot of my hobbies, but at the same time, it's brought me so much joy. And also 4 years I've been employed here at Mayo. I work in the benefits department, so I am one of the people that helps administer your health plans, your retirement plans, and all of the plans that that our employer helps us offer to us. People sometimes ask me if I ever want to move back to New York. And I always promptly tell them no. I love New York, but I love Minnesota and I love Rochester more. I don't mind going back every now and then to visit, but there's nothing like Minnesota, and I love living here.
We get 1 minute for evaluation.
Time.
Okay, next we've got Jennifer, and she'll be giving her speech from, again, the Competent Communicator Manual, speech number 7. And the title of her speech is Heads Up, Concussions in Football. Please welcome Jennifer.
hard it is to be a Vikings fan. I talked to you about our family's love of football, how I remember watching football with my mom when I was young, how my family and I love Sunday afternoons in the fall watching the Vikings play football. We don't always love watching the Vikings, but we do love watching football. I also talked about my husband and how he played football in college, in high school and college, and how he coaches youth football today. That speech, you might remember, went pretty well. Based on the feedback from the audience, it was quite entertaining. And afterward, our esteemed colleague here, Joel Sharp, came up to me and complimented me on my speech technique. But then Joe shared with me some concerns. He said that he had a tough time enjoying football because of the prevalence of concussions in football, and was actually quite concerned about the issue. Knowing my next speech was about research, I thought, well, let's talk about concussions in football and address this serious issue. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests, what I'm going to talk about today, we're going to just take a few minutes and define concussions and what some of the signs and symptoms are. I'm going to also answer a few important questions. Specifically, why should we be concerned about concussions in football? Should players return to the game? And how can we prevent and prepare concussions in football? But first, I want to share a story with you. This story is about a Mayo Clinic patient. She was a soccer player, so European football, but a soccer player from Nebraska. She shares her story along with Dr. David Dodick, a neurologist and concussion expert at Mayo Clinic in Arizona.
Yeah, so Sydney, beautiful young girl from Nebraska, high school student. I met her in May of this year, 2012. And the story is that back in April of 2010, she's a soccer player and a softball player. She headed the ball. And as soon as she headed the ball, she got a headache, felt nauseated, was unsteady on her feet.
I used to play sports, soccer and softball at my high school. I'm gonna be a senior. To be honest, I don't really remember much anymore, but like my freshman year, I played soccer and softball, and I don't really remember either of those seasons. So from what my coach said, there was just a hard ball that just came like darting at me. I guess I headed it and I scored, so that's good. But I don't remember anything actually.
She came back to the sideline. They decided that they would hold her out and repeat the baseline test that she had. She actually had a concussion baseline test. They repeated that and found that she didn't do as well, and she did significantly worse, in fact, than she did at her baseline. So that, plus her symptoms, they held her out.
Red flags just popped up everywhere, so they knew I had a concussion.
Unfortunately, she continued to be active. She kept going to school, she kept exercising, she kept trying to play sports, even while having symptoms, which is the first no-no.
I definitely came back too soon from the first one and tried to play sports again.
So we'll come back to Stephanie in just a couple of minutes here. But first I want to define what a concussion is for you. Mayo Clinic defines a concussion as a traumatic brain injury that alters the way your brain functions. Effects are usually temporary, but for some players the effects can last hours, days, or even weeks. Now, of the 7 factors that Mayo Clinic lists that increases your risk of concussion, 2 of them are closely related to football. The first one is participating in a high-risk sport, such as football, hockey, soccer, or boxing. And the second is if you've had a previous concussion, which you'll find in just a couple of minutes that many high school football players do. Now, according to the Center for Disease Control, these are some of the signs and symptoms of a concussion. So you can see on the left-hand side some of those signs observed by the coaching staff. If a player appears dazed or stunned, if they have glassy eyes. And I won't go through all of these, but you can see some of these moves clumsily or has poor balance. Can't recall the events right before the hit or the fall or directly afterward. On the right are some of the symptoms that are reported by the athlete. They might have a headache or feel pressure in their head. They might feel nauseated. They might have problems with their vision or feeling confused, among others. Now, according to a company called Headcase, this is a company that designed a 3-part system that manages head impacts, records data, and provides diagnostic tools. They report that Almost 4 million concussions were reported in 2012. That's double what was reported in 2002. Again, you can see some of the other statistics there. According to Headcase, football has the highest concussion rate per high school sport. So we do have some things to be concerned about. So why should we be concerned? Most athletes, as you can see from the slide, recover quickly and fully. However, some of the signs and symptoms can last for days or even weeks. As I mentioned before, athletes who've had a previous concussion are at a higher risk for having a recurring concussion, and young children or teens are more likely to have lasting effects of a concussion than adults. So my next question is, should athletes return to play? The answer is yes, under the duty, care, and supervision of an appropriate healthcare professional. A couple of things to take into consideration would be the number of previous concussions. The return should be a gradual step-by-step process. The healthcare professionals and coaches should be monitoring the player throughout the return. If at any stage in the return they're seeing a recurrence of signs or symptoms, they should stop their return or slow down the process of the return. So how can we prepare and prevent concussions? One of the most important things is to wear protective gear during sports and other recreational activities, so things like helmets, pads, and so on. Always making sure that the appropriate protective gear is used for the sport, that the equipment fits properly, that it's well maintained, and so on. In football specifically, you want to use the proper techniques for blocking. Things like practicing heads-up football, never lowering your head during a hit, and so on. Checking with your league, your school, the district about the concussion policies. Often parents and athletes are asked to sign a concussion statement during the beginning of a football season now. And lastly, when in doubt, sit them out. I mentioned to you my husband coaches youth football, and of course he and all of his fellow coaches need to go through concussion training. They do testing if they fear a player has a concussion, but if they're ever in any doubt, as my husband said, they pull them from the game. In the case of the 5th and 6th grade team that he coaches, they also hand their helmet to the parents to ensure that the player won't be returning to the game, that particular game, and then they monitor in the coming weeks. So now that I've defined the concussion, the signs and symptoms, and answered a few questions, I want to jump back one more time, if Amit will let me, to Sydney, so she can give you a couple, or Sydney, excuse me, so she can give you a couple last words here.
This would be, if you feel anything weird after any blows to the head, to stop. It's not worth it. Like if you feel anything at all, honestly, and don't lie about it like I did. Don't lie about how you feel, because I thought it would put me back into the sports field sooner, but it actually set me back and made it worse. So
thank you.
Let's give 1 minute for evaluation.
Hey, Mac. How you doing?
Andrew.
Andrew, nice to meet you. How are you? There you
Nice
go.
to meet you.
Yeah.
It's time.
Okay, now is the time we usually go into table topics, but since we have so many guests today, I think it'd be great just to hear from you. You don't need to come to the front of the room, just your name, how you heard about Toastmasters, and anything you want to share about why you chose to visit today, if that's okay. Again, you could just talk from your seat. We'll start over here.
I'm Brian Washburn. I'm in Systems and Procedures here at Mayo. I guess I heard about Toastmasters through systems and procedures that have it on their calendar, and I thought it'd be really interesting. I actually heard about Toastmasters throughout all of college and grad school, and it seems like it'd be something that could really help me out, and just getting that practice in with public speaking and communicating. So, decided to check it out.
My name is Max Smith. I work over in operations and we're in the administration section. I'm a military fellow here along with Greg. We finished graduate school and we're here for a year before we return to active duty military assignments. So pretty unique opportunity and we're very excited to be here. I actually found out about Toastmasters through Greg on the intraweb for various organizations that we can be a part of to improve our skills personally and professionally. I'm here because I'm an ummer, as you might have picked up on, and I'm really trying to focus on that because as we continue to progress with rank and responsibility, public speaking will be very, very valuable. So happy to be here.
Very cool.
I'm Greg Taylor. I work alongside Max. He stole a lot of my good material. I'm also a military fellow, though in the better service, the Air Force. I heard about Toastmasters originally in college. It was something that I was always interested in, but always too busy to participate in. I felt like I was participating. And one of the outstanding opportunities that we have here, not only to learn throughout the Mayo organization, but also I have zero supervisory responsibility for this year over here. And it's very nice. I just have to manage myself, and so I have a lot of free time to pursue these things like Toastmasters and other events where I can enhance my professional skills.
Great. You can join multiple clubs.
There you go. We already have that.
Have you joined clubs already?
Well, we're going to go next week to the military MERG meeting. They have their quarterly meeting for veterans, and so we're starting our involvement in that, and we're also involved in the Guys at Mayo Family Connection club as well. So I'm building my extracurricular resume.
Okay, and last but not least, I know you've joined, maybe not have joined yet, but have visited.
Almost. Yeah, I'm becoming a regular visitor at UC.
Okay.
I probably will join soon. I will, promise. I'm doing an administrative fellowship. My name's Ryan Lisha Menons, and originally from the Bay Area, California. I've been a member of Toastmasters before briefly last summer, but I need to get back into the swing of things. So that's a little bit about me.
Welcome back. In general, to our guests, feel free to come and visit as many times as you like. Try out other clubs if you want, and if you do want to join, just approach anyone in the club and we can tell you who to talk to about that. Okay, next we'll be moving into our table topics section, and that'll be led by Chris. Please welcome Chris.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, and members, and especially these extremely clean-cut guests that are here. I hope that they are not duly alarmed when they realize that the non-clean-cut Toastmaster in front of them is their current president of this club. All right, no. Got over my fear of needles, now I just have to work on the clipper. There's 3 speakers that we had today. I'm giving you the chance to, amongst yourselves, to be the first one to volunteer, because I only have 1 question. So, volunteer, I pick.
I'll pick.
Good. All right, welcome Jennifer. Today for impromptu speaking, I must admit that I went to impromptu topic finding on the internet. It's a wonderful thing. And for some reason, I am drawn to question number 6. I would like you to spend 1 to 2 minutes discussing why plants have feelings too.
Thank you, topic master. Go ahead. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests. I don't know if our current president is aware that I am very literal, and I don't know the answer to the question of why plants have feelings too. That being said, I have a daughter who is 6 who is very creative, and she would be able to tell you all about that, so I'm going to try to derive from her creativeness. Why plants have feelings too. Alright, I don't know how to answer this question, but what I am going to share is I like to garden. And in my garden, I have carrots, green beans, peas. It's a pretty small garden, but I also have cucumbers, peppers, and tomatoes. And the last few weeks, we were on vacation 3 weeks ago. I did have somebody watering my plants who was, I don't think, watered them probably as much as it should have been watered. And then in the last 2 weeks, it's been very dry, so they haven't been watered. I can tell you my plants are feeling very sad right now. They look a little bit wilted. My tomato plants have pretty much given up because they're not getting enough sun this year, so I'm getting maybe 1 tomato a week off of my tomato plants. So I can tell that my plants are very sad because I haven't watered them. And if I had to answer the question of why plants have feelings too, it's because unfortunately they get neglected by gardeners like me.
Thank you.
Well done. Well done. Okay, next we have our 3 evaluators who are going to be evaluated, led by our general evaluator, which I just tripped up a little bit. So please welcome Melissa, who will be leading the evaluation.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. This is the portion of the meeting that is the biggest opportunity for improvement. It's where we get to get feedback for our speakers and feedback for the meeting as a whole. I would like to duly note today that I sound terrible, and I do cough, but I do not have a cold. I am not sick. I do not smoke. I have horrible allergies and worked at the fair all week. So, without further ado, if I could welcome up John to evaluate the Stigmata speech.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, Madam General Evaluator, Mayor, Toastmasters, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. And Melissa says to me, contact. You got me off in another dimension with your introduction. And it was hard for me to come back, thinking, what would it be like to travel off and then come back and meet your grandchildren? So I had a hard time concentrating for the first part of your speech. I liked how you used time and gave us the definition of the Wild West. And also gave us a more definitive, or something I could put a graph on. The speed of light is going around the world 7 times per second, if I got that correct. And he did bring me back to physics class. Physics class. I had my physics teacher in high school wore the same zip code for 20 years. I am not kidding. And he worked on the Manhattan Project for the A-bomb. He was a brilliant man, but physics. So, at times I had a difficulty following where you're going or how everything was tied together. I would like to see point 1, point 2, and point 3. And I understood about not being able to travel back in time and maybe expand more on Einstein's theory of relativity, and cause and effect. But thank you for bringing me into another dimension.
Thank you, John. I'd now like to welcome up evaluator number 2. General evaluator.
Toastmasters, and guests, especially Amber. Congratulations on finishing your icebreaker speech. I remember the first day when I came to this group and another group and gave my first speech. I could tell you were just a little nervous and you calmed yourself down, you centered yourself, and it was amazing. You just took off. Congratulations. I do also know that you mentioned you work with the benefits group at Maine, and I too have worked with that group, and it's a group of amazing speakers. And so it can be difficult to juxtapose yourself in that group and project yourself. So I appreciate that you're here putting your speaking skills. I want to duly note some of the things that I noticed in your speech. I think it was a very fitting speech, and I appreciate you sharing your background and your information to the group. No notes. No notes. Your first speech with the group. I was impressed. So it shows that you organized, you practiced, you presented with confidence. The minute you came up, you had eye contact with all of the audience. It's hard to do while you're speaking and thinking of your next steps in your speech for some folks. You exuberate confidence, and you have an interesting personality, and it came out with your humor. Your first speech, and you had the crowd laughing with your humor too. I don't know if you realize how humorous you are. Your presence was very confident. You took on the stage again. You had a wonderful rate too, and you mixed in some gestures too. And you gave a really good rate, and your rate allowed you to pause and not put ums and ahs. So you didn't really have it. I don't think I caught any fillers at all. You stayed within time, and again, you had very organized information. You could tell you were just slightly guarding yourself with your fingers like this, but that's the only time I ever noticed that you were just kind of a little stressed. That was it. So congratulations, and I can't wait to hear more about you and your experiences as you move forward in your community. Thank you.
And last but certainly not least, our expert Jill will be coming up here to evaluate Jennifer's speech.
Well, I'll have to give you complete credit for courage, Jennifer. After your last talk, I did tell you that I was very concerned about concussion. And to pick me as your evaluator showed a lot of courage. I think everybody should compliment you for that. You gave an outstanding and detailed research talk, which I commend you for. I appreciated your care in defining the term. This interview with this woman who had this concussion was absolutely brilliant detail. It kept us fascinated. And of course, you gave us you essentially duply created all the protections that a good coach would take. It was meticulous, and there's no way I could even begin to touch that. And so I have to compliment you for giving a completely detailed presentation of the concussion issue from the point of view of a coach. But unfortunately, there was one aspect of your talk you didn't mention. A number of players have been completely crippled by concussions. And that's an aspect of the issue which you didn't discuss in much detail. So what I would say is you gave all of the protections that should protected them, but you didn't explain why they weren't protected and how to deal with that issue. Now, for you to ask me to talk on concussion, you know that I'm very sensitive to that issue, and I'm probably unfair, and I'll have to admit that. I am very concerned about that issue, and maybe someone else would have given me a different perspective. But your talk from a research point of view was excellent. I have to compliment you for that. Thank you very much.
So now get to welcome up our grammarian to report on how we did as far as our speaking skills.
Well, the word duly was duly used. I was very excited. We had Amit, Sarah, I think Sarah twice, Jennifer, Melissa, Abby, and Joe, all used, and Chris, all used duly. Okay, that's good. Now, to the good stuff. Dagant, I loved your colorful words. I loved NASA, the light is thrown on the wall. The speed of light is constant. And by the way, I didn't take high school physics, so it didn't intimidate me at all. I was excited. I felt like I wish you were my dad and my teacher so you could tell me about this stuff. The only thing at the end is I wondered if I actually did go the speed of light, like, and I got that big, how do I keep from splitting up when can I travel the speed of light someday? Oh, so I'll just explode and then it's dead. Oh, all right. So I can't do it. But theoretically, it could happen if you didn't explode. Okay. So I love that we can't go into the past, but we can go into the future. I just loved your speech. I just loved it. It was really interesting. So thank you very much for talking about it.
The club knows that the new term starts in July. Yes, we are midterm officers, mid-year officers. And as a result of that training, we got to discuss some very good ideas. And I put forth these ideas earlier in this week, and very pleased that very little negative feedback. So we are going to try a couple of these ideas in September. One of them being, we're going to try and switch to a two-speaker format to help alleviate this. This is a very good meeting today with very little scrambling. But sometimes we have scrambled a little bit. We're going to try a little bit different. We're going to do two speakers, but we're also going to try and add the humorous and inspirational speaker. That hasn't been done here for a while that I know of. I've been here since, I think, November of 2013, and this would be a new thing to try. Again, this is going to be a pilot. But with that two-speaker format change, we will still be open for a third speaker if someone has a goal that they have to get, or if they are practicing for a presentation. Of course, we're not going to turn away speakers just because of a schedule. We're very flexible here. And with that, we might also try just a little bit earlier closing time. We are usually very consistent about getting out around now or right at 1 o'clock. One of the ideas and benefits of the two-speaker format is that a lot of us are very, very, very busy. We have lots and lots and lots of meetings. And having a little extra travel time might be a benefit for some that struggle to come in the first place because there's not enough time from our meeting to their next meeting. And there's also others, you'll notice that speaking at the end, giving announcements at the end, before the officers' announcements have been before the speakers. So I want to try and make sure that this information is the last information. It's the last thing on the laundry heap of things that you have to sort out through the rest of the week, and just get it prepared for the next time. And on top of your announcement, we're also going to try and do 2 weeks, add a little repetition to the roster. However, in 2 weeks we have our contest. It is our club contest on the 19th. A lot of things are happening earlier in Toastmasters in general this year. So we will have our club contest on the 19th. So if you have something humorous that you want to talk about, let Amy Roberts know. She is chairing the contest this year, or let her know that you want to fill a role. Those are both very important things. And the area contest is not on any calendars right now, but it is going to be, I think, Saturday the 22nd.
Yes.
So that is all that I have to announce in the president's session of our meeting today, and I'm going to go back to the Toastmaster. Thank you.
At times, So thank you for coming to meet and making